Hello, it's Sarah Jane from Cards and a Cuppa here. I made this card last week and blogged it, and I thought I'd do a little tutorial for you on how to achieve this inlaid die cutting effect with your Butterflies Thinlits and Greetings Thinlits dies. It's a really flat card, and it's not difficult to do, but it's a lot of steps, repetitive steps. So let's go ahead and share with you how to make that. Now, my first tip for you when making this card is when I get packs of A4, I like to make sure that I've got stacks already cut, so that if I want to make a card in a hurry, I've already got card perfect size for it. So this is 10 centimeters by 14.3, and this is 9.5 by 13.8. So they're perfectly layered to mat together. Now, when you do this, you end up with lots and lots and lots of little bits of card like this. These are perfect for this project, so make sure you keep them, and then you'll also have all your layers ready to go too. So it's a win-win. Now, in addition to that, you're going to need an A5 mint macaron card base, so that's 10.5 scored at 14.8. This is a basic black 10 centimeters by 14.3 and standard whisper white 10 centimeters by 14.3. So to start with, I've got the Pretty Petals Designer Series paper stack and chosen some card, some paper from that in coordinating colours, and already gone ahead and die cut them. And that's using the smallest solid die from the Butterflies Thinlits collection, and then a sentiment using a Greetings Thinlits die, which I've already cut from mint macaron card. So pop them to one side and take your whisper white card. Now, it is important to note that it's much better to use quite new plates on this, because if you've got a lot of cuts, they will show through, because you're going to be running it through your machine every time for every butterfly. So that's a lot of passing through the big shot. So yeah, good plate, new plates is good. Now you're going to position your butterfly with the wing hanging off. Try and only get the wing hanging off of one edge, because if you do it from both edges, this piece is going to be loose, which is going to be difficult when you come to cut, trimming this layer down to fit your black card. So hang it off over the top edge like so, and die cut. Right, position your first butterfly in the gap you've just made. Turn it over, make sure it's sat properly, and then just grab one of your little pieces of card, measure it to make sure it goes right across, and trim, and then just add a little bit of glue across. Turn it over, make sure that you are properly into the gap you created. It doesn't matter that this at the moment is all loose. When we mat it up onto the black card, it will all secure in properly. So bring your big shot back. Now, I like to make sure that I'm looking at my card straight on. Normally you can do your die cutting sideways, but for this, because you want good positioning, then I like to run it through like this. I can't seem to get my head around the whole twisting it round, and if you can, that's great, but I just find it easier to get my butterflies in a good position by doing it this way. Okay, remove your second butterfly. Choose another design, put it face side down, and position in the gap that you've made. Another strip of Whisper White card. Whisper White is good for this, for these strips also, because it's although it's the same way as our coloured card, it's been rolled more so that it's shiny, but that also makes it feel slightly thinner, so it's a good choice for these backing bits on these butterflies, because it doesn't add too much bulk to the rear of this. Okay, and there's your second butterfly. Right, and I'm just going to go ahead and do the other two butterflies for you. Using the same technique, and I'll speak to you on the other side. And there you have your die cut butterflies. At this point you might find you've got a few bits of paper stuck to your white card. It's just from your cutting plates, and it easily rubbed away with this glue eraser. Now we're going to do the sentiment. So just the same as before, secure your Greetings Thinlits. Now if you find it's bouncing around a bit, just turn your plates over. It's usually because you've got a bow in the plate, and you should find that it'll stick perfectly once it's flipped over. Again, I like to run this through to make sure that I've got the sentiment in a dead straight line. Take away your die cut sentiment. Be careful not to throw any little bits away at this point, because you might find that you actually still need them in a minute. So add a piece of white to the rear now, making sure that you put plenty of glue over the whole area, even though there's nothing there at the moment, because then your cardboard, your card sentiment that you've already die cut, will have something to stick to. Pop that into the space you've created, and now you see this is where your little pieces just pop straight back in to the little gaps that you've got. So it's important not to throw them away until you know what you need from it. Now you might notice that my cheers has got the little spots on it from the gaps in this. All you do to solve that is, once it's in place, just run your bone folder over the top of them, and that just pushes them back. Okay, just rub out any little bits that you've got, any glue that's spilled over once it's dry, any bits of paper from die cutting, rub them out now. Okay, so if you remember, this is the same, so this piece of card is the same size as the black, so we're going to need to trim 1/2 centimetre off one long side and one short side. So let's get the trimmer and do that now. Now because we've left this, we can see that we've got this sentiment is almost at this edge. So if we trim ½ centimetre off here, it's going to be a bit close. So I'm going to take the ½ centimetre off the left hand side, and I think I'm going to take it from across the bottom as well. So let's do that now. So that trims this side down to 13.8 centimetres. Again, we've trimmed that off now, so we're going to have to keep that, just pop that bit to one side so we don't lose it. And I'm going to go up to here. This takes this side down to 9.5 centimetres. Okay, now we're going to add glue to the back of this. No, we're not. Before we do that, we're going to trim this butterfly so that it's flush with that edge. Best way to do that is from the back, because then you can just follow the guide of the either side of the card. Right, now we're going to stick this onto our card layer, our black card layer. What you need to make sure you do is that you get around in each of the little gaps around these butterflies, where we didn't worry too much if they were loose whilst we would keep die cutting. Now we need to make sure that there's going to be glue to secure them to our, and obviously of course on the paper, to secure them to our card layer. It's a bit fiddly, this bit, but it's not too difficult. So here's that little bit that popped out when we trimmed away. Add a little bit of glue to that and pop it back in at this point. Rub away any excess. This, although this is a glue eraser and you do generally use it for removing glue, if you've got any sort of little bits of fine card that maybe your trimmer's left or not quite cut properly, this also works for that. If you just rub it along, it sort of smooths it out and allows you to tidy up the edges a little bit. So there's the basis of our card. Now we're just going to stick this flat onto our card base. Now to complete this card, all we're going to do is get some white perfect accents and pop a couple of these onto the card to decorate. I love that Stampin' Up sell these now. Apparently, I haven't tried it myself, but apparently they colour wonderfully with Sharpie or permanent marker, so you can make them any colour that you've got your Sharpie in. Okay, so now you've stuck your accents on, next you just double check and make sure you've got no glue residue anywhere, because finally we're going to just add some crystal effects onto our sentiment. And one, you have to leave this flat to dry, so you won't have the opportunity to touch it up whilst you're waiting for it to dry. But also, if you rub over this crystal effects with a glue eraser, it tends to make it go dull and it doesn't look very nice, so you don't really want to be going back in and doing that afterwards if you can help it. So I'm just going to go ahead and put crystal effects just on this sentiment. Okay, so it is a bit fiddly to do this. If you do happen to go over in any places whilst it's wet, so when it's really fresh still, you can go back in and touch it up just by running your tweezers if you use them, which I use my tweezers for everything, but you can use your pokey tool or possibly the point of your scissors as well. What you need is something flat to the card just to wipe up the excess, just to make sure it's looking perfect there. So there you have your inlaid die cut technique using the Butterflies Thinlits and the Greetings Thinlits. So thanks for watching today.